He is a Republican who wants to raise the debt ceiling. Yes, that is correct. While some members of his party are threatening a showdown with the Obama administration, Douglas Holtz-Eakin actually agrees with Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner and plans to say as much when he testifies in Congress tomorrow. Doug is president of the American Action Forum. He's a former director of the Congressional Budget Office and most recently served on the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission. Doug is back on the Inside Track from Washington. Doug, you and Treasury Secretary Geithner make strange bedfellows, maybe. Why do you support raising the national debt ceiling when so many Republicans want to cap it at the current $14.3 trillion?
Well, I think the sentiment behind wanting to cap the debt limit is exactly right. We cannot proceed in the future as we have in the past. Unfortunately, raising the debt limit really is a testament to the past. It shows that we've spent money hand over fist over the past several years, and that to be good stewards of the credit rating, we have to actually raise the limit. At the same time, Republicans can meet their obligations to their conservative voters by changing the terms of the budget going forward. And so attaching to the debt limit spending controls and a promise that the future will look different than the past is a strategy I think will be very successful.
Doug, we'll get to the sort of trade-off that you point out in just a moment, but I want to focus on the debt ceiling issue first. Is the Treasury Secretary right that this is really black and white? If you do not raise the debt ceiling, you run the risk of jeopardizing America's ability to sell debt to foreign investors?
Well, I certainly think it would send the wrong message to international markets at a time when the president's plans put us in greater need of international borrowing than ever before. So we know that to not raise the debt limit puts the Treasury in the position of doing all sorts of financial machinations to keep the debt under the limit. They're going to not fund government pension plans. They're going to raid the Exchange Stabilization Fund. None of this is even vaguely associated with good governance. So we've got to put that issue aside and turn to the real issue, which is controlling the need for new debt and controlling the federal budget.
Okay, well, you're absolutely, at least many people would agree with you on that. I can't really think of anybody who wouldn't agree that over time spending needs to be curtailed. But how do you balance the two? On the one hand, you're talking about a very simple prescription: raise the debt ceiling. That's black and white, effectively. On the other hand, you're talking about something very muddy. How do you enforce spending controls when they're so subject to political horse trading?
Well, I think that in the end, there are no rules that can control a Congress. The lesson of history is that Congress has to decide to do the right thing. It is my hope and what I intend to tell the Congress when I testify that they will recognize that our current trajectory is dangerous. In the best of circumstances, it's a recipe for economic stagnation, for a failure for wages to rise, for productivity to grow, and for us to fail our obligation to leave to the next generation a standard of living better than what we inherited. In the worst case, we see another financial crisis like 2008. So there is no reason why any Republican or Democrat would want to risk either of those futures. That means you get the federal budget under control. That should be the #1 priority. It's exactly the message that was sent by the president's own Fiscal Reform Commission.
Doug, before we go, I want to talk to you about the Republican proposal to cut $61 billion from this year's budget. In your opinion, how much of an impact would that have on the economy?
It would be negligible. If you turn that $61 billion in authority to spend into actual reductions in purchases, it's something like $8 or $9 billion. This is a brouhaha over nothing, and Washington needs to learn that they're going to cut spending, and the American public needs to get used to the sight of them doing it.
All right, he's always got some sage advice plus a couple of sound bites. A brouhaha over nothing. Douglas Holtz-Eakin of the American Action Forum, former director of the Congressional Budget Office. Doug, always good to see you here on the Inside Track.